And just like that, Bitcoin is testing its previous cycle high. After it takes out its previous cycle high, next is going to be working on our all-time high this cycle. Earlier in the year, we did break our last cycle top. We did go higher all the way to 74,000, and in my opinion, it's going to be our next resistance after this roughly 69,000 last cycle top. Things are looking better and better. That 50 MA is getting closer to that 200 MA. We are getting closer to that golden cross. Perhaps this is it for the day. We start cooling off a bit, cool down over the weekend, let our RSIs get a little more towards neutral, let those RSIs reset, and then get the juice we need to at least test all-time high. We are approaching overbought on the daily, and Bitcoin's RSI on the daily hasn't been above 70 ever since the ETF hype back in January and February. So, you know, we can definitely go there. We could definitely get overextended and continue running. But what I would prefer to see is supports made, consolidation made, so that we can use that as a bouncing off point. If we just keep spiking like this, I think we will inevitably spike downwards, if that makes sense. What I mean is I want to see stair-stepping action, levels being established and levels being held. But I'll say this until I'm blue in the face and until it becomes much more obvious to everybody, until we can all equivocally agree, is that the bottom was that 49K back in August. Hopefully you guys took advantage of it. I don't think we're going back down there until next cycle crypto winter, if even then. One thing to realize on the shorter term time frames, specifically the 4 hour, we are getting some bearish divergence. This might be where we start cooling down. The price has been rising, however the RSI has been cooling, starting to cool down. The RSI actually topped out right here, but the price is still trying to go higher. This might be it here. We might pull back and try to hold this roughly 66,005 area, and if that breaks, try to hold our 65,000 psychological support along with our 50 MA on the 4 hour. And on the 1 hour, you'll see bearish divergence as well. RSI is cooling down while the price is going up. Just keep in mind there might be a little retrace, a fantastic last second buying opportunity before Bitcoin breaks all-time high. I would love to see that personally. Keep in mind we have the elections coming, we have the rate cut decision, and that could definitely push things around. We have PCE coming up, I believe, next week. So there will definitely be run-ups and rundowns, chances to take advantage. But I do believe by the end of this month, we will at the very least break our last cycle top, and at the very least test our all-time high. And maybe we'll even get that golden cross in there this month. Now, according to a new report from Aspen Digital, they did this report and they based this survey on over 80 family offices, high net worth individuals, and asset managers in Asia in the second half of the year. 31% of these respondents predict that Bitcoin's price will climb above 100,000 before 2025, and they are looking to invest in it. Despite the recent volatility, the private wealth sector is increasingly interested in digital assets and is exploring options to allocate. Now, we also had news that Morgan Stanley on their 13F, they have disclosed that they now hold $272 million worth of Bitcoin. Now, before you get too excited, keep in mind this is only 0.02% of their 1.3 trillion total in holdings. But this is a nice step in the right direction, continuing to see these companies adding and buying Bitcoin, whether it's spot ETF, whether it's Bitcoin outright. And I glanced over this article earlier, and the funny thing is these asset managers, these companies, these entities saying that Bitcoin's going to rally and top out in 2025, or at least that they're bullish into 2025, they're completely ignoring the cycle. They talk about macro conditions, they talk about regulatory environment, but they miss the most important thing about Bitcoin, the 4-year cycle. It is too easy. Just follow Bitcoin's cycle. Maybe this changes one day, but for now, there's no reason for this to change. It's simple as supply and demand. The hype draws in when the price goes up. The price goes up when the supply, the incoming supply, gets cut in half. And we will rotate, we will shift around this kind of cyclical nature of Bitcoin where we have these peaks and we have these valleys, and they are based around a 4-year cycle. I think that is always how it's going to be to some extent. Of course, the drawdowns won't be as severe one day and the run-ups won't be as amazing. It will stabilize to some extent. But that's one thing, in my opinion, that a lot of these analysts, a lot of these people aren't talking about. At least maybe they know it, but they're just not mentioning it, and I think that is ridiculous. I think in the end, the cycle, the 4-year cycle for Bitcoin, is the most important thing you need to learn about. If you know nothing about Bitcoin, look up the 4-year cycle. That is where I would start. Now, I want to bring up Severe 3D. Things have been looking a lot better for the Bitcoin miners lately. This week has been fantastic. Almost every day has been green, and Severe 3D just broke out of its descending resistance One thing to keep in mind for Sphere 3D from a company perspective is this is one of the most high-risk Bitcoin miners. It's like a $15 to $20 million market cap when others are multi-billions. So it is very high risk but high reward. And as for earnings, they're expecting a decrease in revenue, not just quarter over quarter, but also year over year. Things will change as we get through more quarters that are reflecting the recent halving. But for now, we might pull back with earnings coming up in November. I personally think the Bitcoin miners will continue going up to end this year. And Sphere 3D's next test is going to be this 200 MA, which was also a previous resistance right around 130. But I do think where Sphere 3D is concerned, it had its bottom back in September. It just dipped a little bit lower than the August 5 bottom where Bitcoin bottomed out. But yeah, in my opinion, that is the low for Sphere 3D, besides the low back in November of 2023. In my opinion, Sphere 3D isn't going to revisit these prices until next crypto winter. One thing you want to see Sphere 3D do is hold over $1. Just keep in mind, this is a high risk, high reward stock. In my opinion, it's going to run towards the end of the cycle when the hype is at its highest, when alt season is going on. But this is a great day for Sphere 3D. We will see more of these double-digit days, in my opinion. Just keep in mind, if you are getting into your first Bitcoin mining purchase right now, we are already getting pretty late in the cycle. I don't think it's too late yet, but I also think diversification is important. If you don't hold any Bitcoin miners, I wouldn't just buy Sphere 3D, but I would use it to complement a portfolio on speculation that Sphere 3D is going to outperform some of the other Bitcoin miners, which I think is going to happen, but this will come late into the cycle when risk is at its highest. But thanks as always for watching, guys. Looks like we're ending this week pretty strong. It looks like October is playing out as expected. It's days like these that you want to already be invested in the Bitcoin miners, not running around looking for the next Bitcoin miner to buy. Although I do still think there is time for some great gains ahead. You want to be buying during the fear. You want to be buying during the red days because of the green days like this that you want to already be holding and enjoying. But let me know if it's too late in the cycle for you to buy the Bitcoin miners or Bitcoin. Are you still loading up here? I plan on doing an in-depth micro strategy video, so look out for that. Thanks as always, guys, and have a good weekend.